Welcome to Evolution Greenworks. All of our evolutionaries out there, I've got some really fun stuff today. We have Smiley's worms today. I know composting is really a big part of a lot of things that really naturally happen. And when you help that process along, especially when humans create so much waste, it's going to help the earth and get usable product out of that. So we're going to welcome Martin Dupuis of Smiley Worms. Hi, how are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Well, welcome to episode 25. And so, Martin, I want you to just, this is a family business. So tell me about you and Elena. How did you guys get started here?
Before I had this business, I owned a restaurant, and as people know, food services tend to generate a lot of waste. Not just people returning plates with half-eaten, but in the kitchen there's prep. We get a lot of cardboard. Even the size of our restaurant, we were taking 2 half-ton loads of cardboard to recycling a week. And in my mind, once you start following the trail where it ends up, not just the cardboard, but the waste, you think, okay, there's probably a better use to these items than landfilling it or shipping it overseas. So we came up with a solution of feeding them to worms. The worms will consume it, and they create this item called worm castings, which it's odorless, maybe a slight earthy smell at the most, and it kind of resembles coffee grinds. And anybody who's a serious gardener or farmer has probably heard of it. Some people have probably tried it. But I think for the most part, if it's used properly, they're quite happy with this product.
Well, that's amazing. So how long have you been doing this? Is this a new company? Like, when did you
Um,
guys get started?
well, for fun, like we bought our first worms maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and we killed a lot of worms. But we finally got it right, and then we started to scale it. And then what had happened is a friend of mine had knew someone who wanted worm casting. So yeah, sure, we'll sell them some or give them some, or depending what they want, because we weren't really in business. But he wanted 3,000 pounds. I was
Wow.
like, okay. I said, okay, a little notice, we could probably do it, but it wouldn't be for like until the next calendar year. And
Right.
so we managed to do it, but at the time COVID hit, and this was a garden where they took in visitors, and the garden was going to be shut for the season. So it's like, okay, now we're stuck with all these castings made for this person, and so okay, let's just put it online on Facebook, on Kijiji, and probably within a month it was all gone, just selling at 10 and 25 pounds at a time. And I say, okay,
Really?
then the kind of like the light bulb went off in my head. Is like, okay, there is obviously 3,000 pounds is it sounds like a lot, but it's not that much. But how quickly it went, it's like, okay, maybe we have something. And then, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say that, what's amazing about this is just how something that you believed in sort of just happened. And I think that's the passion piece, isn't it?
Yeah, like we like even if we didn't, we would have used it here. I grow a lot of fruit trees. If it's in this zone, I've probably tried it. Like at one point, we had about 17 varieties of grapes going. We have probably 6 or 7 varieties of cherries and apples, and so we would have fed it to our plants anyway. But it ties in with my areas of interest, I guess.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So, for the fruit that you grow, is that part of a market garden that you and your wife are doing, or?
No, no, we were a lot of people are into more of an edible landscape. Um
Yes,
like
I agree. I am
yeah,
too. Yes.
like I always thought it was great where I could just walk out my door maybe 20 feet and pick cherries for breakfast, or raspberries, or apples are right there, or like the kids would get off the bus, and if they're hungry, they'll head right to the raspberry patch. It was okay that this was worth it. So it all kind of tied in together.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
very big on the edible landscape too. I live in a forest. I'm out in Marchand, Manitoba, in a
mhm.
conifer forest. So we have lots of like blueberries and natural raspberries and the wild strawberries and all of the other berries that go with that. The variety is immense depending on the time of year. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I think one thing about Manitoba is if you start doing a little bit of research, you'd be surprised at what grows here. Like we had our first
Yeah.
harvest of black walnuts and butternuts this year. Um,
Oh,
so that was kind of exciting. That was 10 years in the making, but it is possible
yeah.
to grow them here and produce nuts. Um,
Excellent.
so
Excellent. So okay, so it started as sort of this sort of thing that happened, and then the pandemic happened, and you had this product.
yeah,
So where have you kind of gone from there? Like this is transitioning into a main business for you, basically, right? So,
yeah. I guess from there we thought, okay, all this, the castings were made from organic waste. So staying in that thread was okay, what else is being landfilled that people might actually want if it was maybe packaged properly or processed properly? Or like one item we had was we collect a lot of organic potting soil from greenhouses and grow ops, and we screen it, basically remove the whole root system, amend it with a bit of compost, and we sold tons of it just for people who want to fill up an upright bed or amend their garden. We sold lots of mulch. Like even mulch probably would have sold, but you need a half ton to move mulch or some sort of delivery system. And because I think people know the benefits of it, where it's like, well, if I just have a car, how am I going to get a reasonable amount of mulch into my garden? So it's sometimes it's as simple as that, as just offering a delivery system.
well, yeah, that's interesting. So, were you able to package it up, or were you offering to deliver it to them?
Well, what we did was the when you collect organic waste, there's kind of like a standardized 240-liter bin they use, and it's been reinforced to handle about 250 pounds of waste, and you can dump it in it. So basically, if somebody ordered our recycled soil or our mulch, we said, okay, it comes in this size of bin, and give them a price, and depending on how much they order, and okay, like we bought a power tailgate for our truck so we could load them and unload them. And like it's like a lot of those customers, like I say, were city people who either didn't own a vehicle or had a car, or they didn't have access to just a guy with a pickup truck. So sometimes business is as simple as that. Is just you're filling
Right.
a net, you know. And we were surprised of like the first year we did the recycled soil, we were well over 100 of these bins of this recycled soil that we have. So okay, we're on to something. Now we collect from some grow ops, which it's been legalized in Manitoba for a while now. And these people had no way of, they would just dump their, they just landfill it, or they have this potting soil that's been used once. But it's
Oh,
like after they use it once, they have no use for it. But it's still got the perlite
right.
in it. It's still got the peat. And like even peat moss is not, the harvesting of peat moss is not really a sustainable practice. So if you could find a way to reuse it, even better.
Well, yeah, because they have to clear off forest, then they have to skim it all down. I mean,
Yeah,
so it takes a phenomenally long time for the earth to regenerate after you've harvested the peat moss off of an area. So yeah,
exactly.
I agree. Yeah, that's so you're taking it and you're actually recycling it. So can you
Yep.
explain the process to me? Like, so what is a casting? For those of us
Um,
that don't necessarily know, what is a casting? Let's start with that.
okay. Traditional composting requires you take a combination of they call them greens and browns, or nitrogen and carbon, and usually it's quite a bit more carbon than nitrogen, and you mix it up, and the pile will heat up, and then after a certain period of time, depending on the style of compost, you'll turn it over, add some air to it, and it'll speed up the breakdown of the organic material. Worms are cold composting because the worms burrow through it. They don't need to be turned over. The worms do which is nice, because if you traditional composting can be really stinky just because you're adding air to organic material that's breaking down. But with composting, you're not touching it. The worms are doing the work. So I've seen people have their own little worm farms right in their kitchen, in their living room, and you'd never know it was there, just because it's pretty much odorless. So what we do is we do a combination of both, because the one part about hot composting is that it'll kill any weed seeds, or it kills pathogens like E. coli, salmonella. And then we'll feed it to our worms, and it's already been pre-composted, and it just streamlines the process, and then they kind of finish it. Um, and then after the whole process takes about 6 months for us from beginning to end. Um,
Okay.
and we could speed it up, but there's a lot of studies showing that compost that's made too quickly is not as high in microbial activity as one that's had time to uh, to break down. Like there's no fungal development. There's so the longer you can leave it undisturbed, the better product you're going to have.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, right? Because I mean, it takes a long time to actually make Earth. Now we're trying to speed up that process
Yeah,
by
and that's
utilizing the worms, which is interesting. I mean, so do you sell the worms so as other people can then do this, right? That's what I'm understanding. Or you sell the castings or the reused Earth or the
yeah.
renewed Earth. Let's call it renewed Earth.
Yeah, we do both. Like we'll sell the worms. Like it's every so often. Like before I did this interview, I had an order from Vancouver Island. I'm like, okay, I thought they had lots of worms there, but maybe
Yeah.
with their heat wave or whatever, they had problems with their. Some of the farmers lost a lot of inventory because it got so hot there this summer. So we'll sell the worms and we'll sell the castings, and we get a little bit in tipping fees from some companies that we pick up their waste from. So
Nice.
that's kind of the model where you get a little bit from different sources,
Okay.
and
Yeah. So it
collectively
kind
it'll
of
make a
adds up.
business.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
okay, that's pretty interesting stuff. And so this cold process is something that like what I like is the odorless piece of this too, because like
yep,
you said, that you can do it right in a kitchen. I know Northern Sun, it's an off-grid community not very far from me. I know them very well, and I know they use worms for recycling and recomposting their feces actually. So their bathrooms, they utilize worms.
yeah. No, it basically they ask, well, what can you feed worms? It's like if it was once alive, they will eat it,
Yeah,
and then at that stage, it's been partially decomposed or whatever. If it's human or animal or whatever, it's already been
whatever
broken
it is.
down, and so they're halfway there. With us, like I said, we let it go through the heating cycle just to make sure that it's almost sterile, but it can't get too hot so you don't kill the beneficial bacteria. But it's got to be hot enough so that you're not transferring any problems to someone.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So you let it heat up and then you let the worms do their job, or is it the worms do their job and then you let it heat up?
No, it heats up first, and then we have probe thermometers, and once the temperature drops to say maybe 20 to 25 degrees Celsius, okay, then it's cool enough that we can feed it to them. Any hotter, it'll cook the worms.
Oh, yeah, well, that makes sense. You don't want to do
Yeah.
that, right?
Like a rule of thumb with them is if you're comfortable, they're comfortable. If you're cold, they're probably cold. If you're hot, they're probably hot. So that's kind of it's not overly scientific, but if it's a hot day, then okay, we should do something to cool them off, or hose them down, put a hose on, or a fan on them, or somewhere. If they're cold, then we need to cover them up or add heat, or um,
Do
yeah,
you
it's
have your composting stuff outside? So how do they fare for the winter then?
they have to be inside. The one thing about our composting worms, they're not native to Canada. They wouldn't
Oh,
survive our winters, so they never be evasive. Um, they don't burrow into the ground. They live in the top 2, 3 inches of the surface.
oh, I
Um, while our native ones will go deep enough to avoid the frost.
right. So what variety of worms are they then that you use?
Well, the layman's term is red wiggler.
Oh,
Okay.
red wiggler. Okay, I've heard that
Yeah.
before. Yeah.
But like every animal and plant, they'll all have their Latin names so that you can tell them apart. So it's Essentia fetida or something like that. I think that's the Latin name for them, but um, most people just know them as red wigglers.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So, and when you're speeding up the process here and you're getting this renewed soil,
Mhm.
how much do you sell that for? Like you said, you were selling it by the bin, right? So explain what a bin is to us, just so as we understand.
Oh, okay, yeah, our recycled soil, they were 240-liter bin. So basically, four of them would get about a yard.
Oh,
I
okay.
can't,
I get
yeah. So that,
that.
yeah, and then like I said, this year we amended it with there's a composting site in Portage where they do vegetable-based compost. And it's like, okay, a lot of people, if you're not from the farm, animal manure and composting, it's somehow it's tainted, and I'm not sure why. If you're a farmer, it's fine, everybody would, but city people, they're like, oh, really? No. And then you tell them it's vegetable based. Oh, okay, it's all good, you know. So we
What?
sourced the veg.
Are
I
you
know it
serious?
it wasn't just once, it was often. And like I thought it was strange at first, but I was like, well, I'm in business, so sometimes you just listen to what the market's telling you. um, Everybody's good with compost, but once you start to get to the particulars, they're like, oh, maybe not. Part of it too is like, say for instance, there's a Hutterite colony not far from me, and he must have 500 semi-loads of pig compost, and it's already broken down. It looks like earth. If I brought it to your house, you wouldn't be able to tell what it was. But as soon as you mentioned it came from a hog barn, forget it. We don't want that in our yard. That kind of
Well, they're envisioning something from a tailing pond, right? So I get,
yeah.
because I've seen injection and smelt injection processes. So I
Mhm.
get where that's coming from. So I know we
Yeah.
get a lot of that out here. I won't name who's the big one out here, but yeah, it bites when they're spraying, injecting.
Right.
You know, you really, it's like shog. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We have a special word for it. It's called shog. So no, but once it's earth, it doesn't really matter. And it's the nitrates and that balance that you're looking for your garden, because you're using
Right.
that up pretty readily and you're planting usually the same things over and over again because you have a limited space.
Yeah. Um, so it's like I say, it just there was enough feedback there. So okay, let's find a vegetable based one and kind of take that off the table.
Absolutely. We're going to break for our sponsors. And so we're going
Okay.
to be back in about 2 minutes. And then we're going to talk more with Martin about what do we see in the future. And I have a short video introducing their company. It's going to be fun. Stay with us. And right after this, and of course, I can't find the filler, but we're live. So this is the way it sometimes goes. Things have been shifted around on me. Here we go.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right, I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance, quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% right off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet, keep your tills running, and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you, with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today.
At CM Engrave, we create more than just trophies, medals, and signs. We create time. Time for family. Time for growing your business. Time for the moments that make you, you. With more than 30 years experience for all your engraving needs. CM Engrave.
Welcome back. Yeah, so we are talking to Mark Dupuis and Martin Dupuis. I'll get it. Sorry, Martin. And we're talking about his new business and with Smiley Worms. And I actually like even the name is pretty cool. We're going to talk a little bit more about what their plans are for the future. And I'm welcoming back. Hi, Martin.
Hello.
We had quite a few advertiser stuff going on there. I'm sorry about that.
Good.
I mean, where do you see this going? I mean, I know you're early days, but what other things can you branch out into, or where do you see this going?
Well, so I guess we're kind of lucky because we have lots and lots of choices, and it's more problem is narrowing it down to some instead of all of them. One item we've been working on. There's other companies that have done it in the States and so on, where they've made a cardboard base peat moss, and it's a peat moss replacement. And we made a couple thousand pounds of it, and we've been sending it out to different growers or whatever. We've amended it with some perlite, some castings, some compost, and we called it Sneaky Pete. Just kind of it's a peat moss replacement, and so far the feedback's been really good. If you
I love that, Sneaky Pete.
yeah,
Oh, that's a cute
if
name. Yeah.
if you were to look at the bag, and if I were to put a bag of potting mix and the Sneaky Pete beside each other, unless I told you, you probably wouldn't pick up that it's not peat moss, that it's actually cardboard. That's been basically we have a piece of equipment that reduced it to a fiber. And then we screened it so all the big pieces have been removed. And like I say, it resembles peat moss. But it's got lots of better qualities to it. Like, for instance, peat moss is very acidic. And what most growers do is they just amend it. It's kind of, well, that's just what we do. With this, it's very neutral. So there's not much amending to it. It holds moisture better. The fungal development is better. Plus it's environmentally sound, where we're just using cardboard there's so much available cardboard that we can use for
really,
it.
we want to see stuff that's going to hold moisture because of the drought. I mean, we're just early days into the first year, really, of the drought taking good hold on us. Like, this was a
Yep.
good, like, it started last year, but this year was really hardcore, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's a cycle. So we're definitely into it for like a 5-year, like dirty 30s kind of, it could be, right?
Yep.
So, I mean, if we look at the Farmer's Almanac a little bit too, that's kind of what they're predicting. So we have to be prepared. And I think, going this route where we've got a product that's more environmentally friendly, it's been renewed. I
Right.
like renewed better. Anyways, in a natural process, really.
Yeah.
Like, fairly natural. You've got the worms and everything. I guess you do use a piece of equipment, though, for making it back into fiber, the cardboard.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's
Like
so much garbage out there. It's nice to see that you're doing something phenomenally great with it.
well, the Sneaky Pete, that was one thing I noticed, is that how much cardboard we used just to make a couple thousand pounds of it. It was way more than I could have imagined. It was like, okay, we just keep adding. Okay. Um, Eventually we got to the machine we use needs quite a bit of product in it to work properly. You
Right.
can't use it partially full. Well, you could, but it's not very efficient.
Right.
So if this were to work, it would be a stream, to basically a way to use the cardboard up in a big way. It wouldn't be, just giving a box to somebody's moving or something. Okay, we reuse the box. This would
Right.
be
On a much bigger scale than that.
exactly.
But what are people doing with the stuff anyways? I mean, we're talking about grocery stores. We're talking all the packaging they get. And there's a
Uh,
lot. And what about the recycle places? Are they actually doing anything with it anyway?
um,
So could this be a
they
part of the solution?
that's kind of my take on it. I don't think what I'm offering is one size fits all. This is just I'm taking a little piece of it and doing something with it. And I think if a lot of people took little pieces, eventually it would all be gone.
I agree with you on that. That's a very big part of how I even design things. I try to, reincorporate things that are still functional. I try to do all of those types of things first to try and salvage
Yeah.
what is instead of just going all new and stuff like that. I don't like throwing things out, and you can ask my husband about that. I'm a bit of a pack rat when it comes to, I'm good with letting stuff go as long as I know it's going to be repurposed, reused. How is that going to happen? Like nothing, everything is considered before it leaves,
Exactly.
And I'm
Like
good with it leaving as long as we've got something covered there. Like, I just can't do it otherwise. I feel guilty. I feel like I could have done something better,
yeah, yeah, no, and doing what I do, I come across lots of other people with their own take on, like there's one gentleman I
Yes.
came across where he bought a piece of equipment to shred plastic, and he set it up, and I was like, he was like, I was surprised of how much plastic he could shred. It was an industrial machine. I'm like, I wonder if every city had someone like him, or every community. Like I don't know if the investment was huge. I know the space maybe for storage might be a bit, but he had a market for his shredded plastic. So okay, that's one little piece of the waste stream he's eliminating.
And that's what it takes. I think it's a whole lot of that going on. So little bits
Mhm.
and chunks taken out where we are starting to make a real effect. Because we already know if we put it in the recycle bin, it's probably 75% going to end up in the landfill. So
Correct.
having people that are standing up and saying, no, I can use that. I can do this. I can do that. And your company coming in and saying, I can take paper, I can take cardboard, I can take food waste, I can take, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I think it's important to have that piece, and then that person is then charring up and the plastics and reutilizing the plastics, making it a usable product. If there's enough of us creating industry out of it, I think that at some point we basically could probably take it all, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think the part of my problem too sometimes is, well, as a taxpayer or whatever, you look and see, oh, okay, where's all our money going to? And then you see some of the initiatives that they put into. It's like, okay, it's a good idea, but did it work the way and I think too is it having somebody who's passionate about what they're doing. You get way more mileage out of them than somebody's you just hired off the street. Say, okay, here's your job. You don't get a lot out of that.
Yeah.
So, and I think sometimes the government is a little bit like that. Oh, we hired you to sort plastic. Well, if you were the owner, I'm going to figure out where I can sell it. I'm going to figure out what's of value, where, and you're going to really look at it from a different lens than it's like, okay, I'm just sorting plastic.
No, yeah. And I think that's important. And I think all too often the funding's going just to one source, and it's really too much for one company anyway. So if
Right.
you've got a recycle place, great. So they're the main hub. They're going to then take in or collect or whatever all of
Uh-huh.
this recycled material, whether it be electronics, plastics, paper, cardboard, whatever. But then these secondary companies should be then allowed to come and get the funding too, because now they're processing and creating new commercialization for these products that they're
Right.
recycling or renewing. And I think we should call it renew in your case, just because we're actually taking something and creating new soil, right?
Right.
So we're renewing the soil in a cleansing process, as you mentioned, you even heat it, right? So
Right.
in a natural process. So I really like that. So going from here, so now you've got your version of peat moss. I think
Right.
that's an excellent next step for you guys. And
Mhm.
where do you think you're going from there? Like, is there like, like, do you have, or is it just too new yet? Are you looking
Um,
5 years down the line, or?
Yeah, like right now we're just working out of an acreage, and so we're a little bit bottlenecked. But we have made arrangements to purchase a larger parcel where we can accommodate semis, and we can accommodate like
Ooh.
traffic that would be like where we are now. We could, but at some point we're going to have problems with the neighbors. Like we don't want that going on there, just the traffic and the noise and everything. So we're looking for. Well, we've bought a more appropriate spot, and
Right.
then from there, I think. When you have a business storefront, if you will, you're taken a little more seriously. Right now it could be like some guy in his backyard, but they're not really privy to all the things that are going on. I don't think people could imagine how much thought is put into a business before it really takes off. There's
Oh
just
yeah.
endless nights where you're up just all night thinking about, okay, how's that going to work? Who am I going to, just planning and writing and
Well, and it's scary too because now you all have all these extra expenses that are
yeah,
they're finite, they're sitting there, they're going to be a reoccurring every month, and
exactly.
you have to taking the leap. Oh, I know for us it was the same deal. Like I own Evolve Green, which is a renewable energy company, and always that fear, in your heart.
Yeah,
You're taking that leap, even when you step down from your regular job and things like that. All of those steps are really huge for a company to do. So
yeah.
I appreciate what you're saying when you're talking about that.
Yeah, so and not only that is that even you always wonder, okay, if this falls flat, how's that going to look? All the naysayers will come out of the woodwork, but and if it goes, then I guess it works out good. But and I guess one thing about being in business, especially food service, there's probably not an industry in the world where you get more criticism about everything. So you kind of get thick skin, and you begin to worry less and less of what people think. So it's like, okay, in my mind, I think I'm onto something, and now it's up to me to go out and prove it. It's like, okay, am I on the right track? And it's like, and I guess people vote with their wallets. If they're buying it, okay, yeah, no, I'm on the right track. If they're not buying it, then I was wrong. I miscalculated the market.
Yeah, and it's always hard too because you're in a bit of a niche market. So,
Yes.
and I was the same 13 years ago, 14 years ago. Where was renewable energy then? Well, the primary question was, what is renewable energy anyway? So that'll tell you how niche I was. And so I appreciate when you're starting something really new like that. And I just want to put this out to our viewers. Oh my gosh. And some of you are businesses out there and remember this for starting your own companies too, I'm sure. It's the scariest thing in the world because you're crazy until you're genius.
Right.
And I know you're going to be genius. So
Well, I think like when 13, like I have solar on my property, and I probably you and I were on the same wavelength where we think, okay, it's maybe we may be early, but it is going in that direction. So
yep.
it might have more to do with timing than it does with the idea. So you might have the right idea at the wrong time or the wrong idea. It just
Yeah, but
um,
sometimes you have to grow with the idea and teach the
yeah.
idea and nourish the idea. I mean, I went from global to within 3 provinces is where I primarily work now. And a lot of people
Mhm.
would think that that's kind of weird that you went the other way because usually it goes, in your case, it'll go global, right? Yours, because something it can ship, it can go whatever.
Right.
In my case, however, it's becoming so popular that now we primarily work out of 3 provinces. We do services in other provinces as well, but we used to be global.
Right.
But in our case, this is a win. That means that the industry is big enough to sustain us close to home.
Right. Right. No, that makes sense.
So, and in your case, you can go global because you're making an actual name and a new product, basically,
Right.
from what your idea is, which is amazing. And I think that, although you'll have your struggles, I think you guys are going to do amazing. I really wanted to jump to the video. You guys have just a little bit of an explainer video. I'm going to
Yeah.
play that for everybody right now. Alrighty, here we go.
Earthsaver. We at Smiley Worms would like to introduce you to our original vermicompost idea. If you're here looking at this, you probably know vermicompost is the best natural soil amendment man or nature has created. The big idea was the Earthsaver. Everything in this bag was kept out of landfills and pre-composted and fed to our worms. Canadians send an average of 720 kilograms per person of organic waste to the landfill each year. We found this alarming. Many Canadians realize it's a problem, but do not have a solution. Most people do not compost. You can be a part of the solution. Buy a bag of EarthSaver to feed your healthy soil. We can only guarantee this. We kept it out of the landfill, your worms ate it, and your plants will love it. These will be great for your home, garden project, or even a fundraiser. Still not convinced? Send us an email. We'll send you a free sample. You'll love it. This is work and product we're most proud of. One last thing. We're located in Manitoba. If we're too far from you, contact us anyway. We may know someone. Worm farmers are awesome breed.
Welcome back, evolutionaries. Oh, that was fantastic. I loved that video. Hey, Martin. Oh my goodness, that was a great video. I love that. That
Yeah.
really does kind of drive it home what you do and what you're achieving as well, which I think is amazing. So,
Mhm.
as I mentioned to you when I was trying to entice you to come on my show, I've actually been looking for somebody doing composting for a company, and I think this delivered in so many ways. I'm so excited when Jeff was telling me, a good friend of ours, mutual friend,
Right.
about your company. I was very excited to interview you. So I guess what I would like to know is, for branding purposes, are you trying to break into the US market currently, or are you just working your way across Canada?
Right now, because of the space we have, we're a little bit bottlenecked. Because we sold pretty much everything we had, so we're not quite at that point yet. But it's encouraging. Like, we're with our new space, we'll be able to scale it up. Um, I know there are people who do ship to the States. There's a lot of legalities about sending soil across them, so you have to the paperwork. Like, I know we've tried importing worms, and we can do it because we've had some big orders. It's like, okay, if we sell all our inventory, what are we going to be left with? So we made arrangements so that if that happened again, we'd have a source to bring some more in. So we've had some experience with that,
I
moving
just had
stuff across.
visions of somebody sneaking across the border at night with 100 worms tucked under their jacket.
I thought it would look bad if I showed up in the news saying I got caught smuggling worms across the border. It's like, okay, that would
Was
be.
kind of like that lady who was taking bottles of Canadian water across the border to the US to sell this wonderful glacier
I
Canadian
haven't
water,
heard that
and
one.
she got caught smuggling Canadian water in. I know.
Really?
I don't even know where to begin with that.
Yeah, no, so we have looked into it, but right now we probably haven't bought enough to service our community here. But and partly we're a little bit restrained because of the weight of it. Compost is heavy, so you can only ship it so far before it becomes uneconomical. But the worms we ship across Canada, that works out.
Oh, and what is the worm casting itself? Isn't that a lightweight product as well, or?
Not really. It's one thing about worm castings is they retain water really, really well, and we have a really tough time drying them out because when you bag them up, you have to be careful you don't bag them too wet because they'll go anaerobic on you. So you have to constantly monitor, get the right moisture levels to be bagged, and then you're good. And then some of our bags breathe a little bit too, so that helps. So it's a good problem, I guess. If you're a grower of some sort and you want your soil to retain moisture, it's perfect. But if you're trying to bag it, it's not so good.
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah, well, there's always, I guess, problems with all of that. And do you have to watch how far you dry it out as well, or?
Yeah, that's probably like there's a couple things that would ruin worm castings, and one is heat. So you have to store it in a cool place because usually most times heat will kill any beneficial microbial activity. So you got to watch for that. And then secondly is if it dries out, it just becomes inert.
Oh, I see. So it doesn't do nearly what it should. Oh, that's interesting
Exactly.
to know. Well, I really want to wish you and your wife well. I'd love to have you back on the show in a year or so to see where you guys
Sure.
are going with this. I think it's an amazing business. And I love the cute names you're coming up with. And, because really branding is about being able to remember something. And
Right.
smiley worms, I did not forget. Remember, I was asking you, how do I pronounce your wife's name? How do I do this? You know, and talking about things like that before the show. And I didn't do that with your company name. I had it down right away, and I didn't even have to take a second look, you know? And
My wife will be happy to hear that because it wasn't me that came up with the name. I was kind of something a little more hoity-toity, like Earth Terra Firma or something like that. But I didn't.
everybody's got that name. You got to do something
Yeah,
on your own.
that would have been my choice. But obviously, I got outvoted, so probably a good thing.
Well, did she come up with the other one, Sneaky Pete's?
No. I have a lady friend who's a brilliant marketer, and she thinks imaginatively as anybody I've ever met. So say, okay, I got a name for you. It's like, and that's what
She's
she came up with.
right. I won't forget it either, actually. I really think that's amazing. Well, this is wonderful. I'm looking forward to seeing where you guys go with this, and I'd love to have you back on the show in a year or so to see what's happening. And that's it for today's show. Thank you so much, Martin, for being on the show today. And I'm sorry we missed your wife, but next time we'll have you both, right?
Well, thank you for having me.
Excellent. Well, that's it for today's show, Evolutionaries. It's just been amazing. You know, I really enjoyed talking to Martin and learning all about his business. It's a family-owned business that sort of just happened. And these guys know their stuff. So if you want some non-peat, that is peat, sneaky peat, definitely give Smileys a try. So smileyworms.ca. We're just going to check out a video from AETI. You want any kind of renewable energy training? These are the guys.